studied exercise science in college, so I feel like I'm maybe almost too in tune with my body. If something feels off, I notice it. I studied that because I thought it was going to help me develop as an athlete, as a player, which it did, and I enjoyed my time there learning that. So I take fitness very seriously, and nutrition and whatnot, and staying on top of my mobility and whatnot. But as the years have gone by, it's definitely gotten more maybe to the forefront, where I've noticed, the weeks that I'm able to work out, or if I come off an off week where I've been able to get my body feeling good, moving well, is when I have my best results. It's kind of cut and dry. You got to do that stuff. It's kind of non-negotiable at this point. And
Yeah.
28 now, so I'm not old, but I do feel like I'm feeling my body a little bit more. I got introduced to the ARP device in December, and it's been a huge help.
How did you come about to discover this technology?
So one of my buddies here in Jacksonville, also a golfer, he used it on his back. A few years ago, he had some serious stuff going on in his back. I can't remember what it was, but he was buddies with an NHL player, and I guess pretty big in NHL with the ARP and maybe the big device, the RX. It cured him, and he spoke of it pretty highly then. So I reached out to him. I was having a little rib thing going on, and he let me use his PRS. And I was like, wow, this thing's incredible. Got me moving so much better, so much quicker.
Good. So tell us, in your mind, how you feel this is the technology's worked for you and what it's actually doing to you.
I'd been having this rib thing going on for a couple months in the fall. I ended up taking almost a month off of swinging, which I was not a fan of. I was doing the rehab stuff and moving better, but I was still having pain. And it was almost every time I swung, I was feeling the same thing no matter how much time I took off or therapies I was getting done. I saw my buddy, he, went through our very bootleg search and destroy. He is not a practitioner, but needless to say, the next day I felt better, and I was like, okay, wow, maybe there is something to this. And my swing coach is in Atlanta, so I searched out for an ARP practitioner in Atlanta, Dr. Banji, who was huge help. He, searched and destroyed a few spots on my ribs and back. I mean, I was like night and day better within just a couple sessions. So my buddy thankfully lent me his, and not for long. It was kind of like whenever you see a car that is your car and you start noticing it all the time. He was like, man, I need that back. So, it was a quick purchase, right? I was like, all right, I've got to get one of myself. And I've used it pretty much every day since.
What do you think, from your perspective, the technology's doing to help recover you faster?
I feel like there's a big, I don't know, I wouldn't say fight between, but like ice and heat, and the ice was kind of at the forefront back in the day where, ice something. But really, I feel like the new research is kind of showing that that's almost delaying the healing, right? Like you need blood flow to bring those nutrients in there. And it seems like to me, when I'm using the ARP, it's almost like I can almost like feel just this massive amount of blood coming through there. I'm going through the movements with it, and it's activated and it's pumping blood and it's kind of clearing it out. And it's almost like in the morning, I use it to kind of get that blood flow activated and kind of clear it. And then in the evening, after I've just put it through the ringer on the course, I do that to kind of clear it back through. And then I'll sleep with it on the background setting pretty diligently. I don't think my wife loves that, but there's wires everywhere. But
Yes.
I've been a big fan of it.
How do your peers on the tour look at you differently when they see that you've got this device? It's probably the same thing. Like, well, now what is this? Is that a TENS unit? How do you respond to it?
It's funny, as I start to use it, I see other buddies that have used it or use it currently, and it's kind of like you start seeing it a little bit more. I mean, I use it every morning, right? Either in the hotel room or in the gym or whatnot. So I've had quite a few buddies ask, and I kind of give them the rundown of what it does, and tell them it's kind of like it's a TENS unit, but it's not a TENS unit. It's kind of like that on steroids.
Right away before we had the recording going, Jake started asking you about some wrist issues. So tell us a little bit about that. What's going on with your wrist?
Unfortunately, it was the first event of the year. We were in the Bahamas. I actually had the lead by 3, I think, after the first 2 rounds. And I'd been talking to Jake actually intermittently that week because the range, I guess the way the grass was growing is into the grain, right? And it was past palm. It's like a pretty thick blade that they'll have kind of in coastal areas and in the south. It was into the wind on the range, and I think just kind of hammering down into the range, it kind of started to aggravate the wrist. And maybe it'd been bothering me a little bit before then, but nothing even close to it. But it's kind of like was crushing me that whole week. Ended up not winning. I came in top 20, so it was still a solid week. I knew something was kind of going on with the wrist. So when I got back to the States, I got an MRI, and thankfully it was nothing serious, but some tendonitis in the flexor, tendon radialis, I believe. And we were actually right back on the road like the next week to Panama. And I was kind of going over in my head like, man, do I want to keep pushing it? Because it's pretty bothersome. I'm swinging different right now. Or I can take these 2 weeks off. I can go get some ARP sessions in. I also got a PRP injection in it, which hopefully is helping too, which gave me 4 weeks because we had 2 off weeks after that. Was able to strengthen it up. I got a few sessions in on the RX up with Dr. Blanchet in Atlanta, which really helped kind of maybe find those spots, those search and destroy spots where I was able to hone it in myself with the PRS and kind of do that diligently every day. It's been feeling way better. I mean, 90%. It's pretty much 100%. It feels so much stronger and it's back to normal for the most part, which is great.
Even just having a little tool like this where it's going to help strengthen you, obviously must give you some confidence when you're out there grinding against your peers, trying to make a living.
Definitely. Yeah. No, you're spot on. It is very mental. Right. It's a 4-day event. So it doesn't matter if you're great one day, you got to keep going the next day. I think that's one of my strengths is kind of working on my mental game and using my mind as an asset. And, I'm a big believer in preparation, right? If I prepare 100%, then, I mean, there's nothing else I can do, right? So you go into that event and know, whatever I've got is what I've got. It's nice to know that, with the PRS and whatnot, I know my wrist is going to be okay. And I know even if I do make it a little angry during this round, I'm going to be able to go clear it out after the round and do my exercises on it, which has been great. And I wanted to add one thing. It's pretty cool. I did the search and destroy, right? Found a few hot spots that we've worked on over the last few months. And, I've probably only had a few sessions on the RX, but, 100 sessions on the PRS. And it's funny, every time I go back, and he goes over those hot spots, they're either not there or they're very, very small. So it's kind of a testament to the PRS that, it's not as strong as the RX, but it's still doing its work and it's still clearing those out.